Well, welcome everybody. Great to see a few faces that I've seen from the last time I was here, plus a few extras from other places. So welcome those who've chosen to join us in Wesleyan Methodist Church this morning. It's absolutely wonderful to be here. Now, just as a refresher or a reminder, I'm with a local group called No Apologies, which is a team of 3 people at the moment, the steering team, and our aim as local Coffs Harbour-Orian Christian people is to strengthen and encourage Christians in all churches in not just Coffs Harbour, but wherever we may go. So we're a support to local churches and local pastors to help by not doing what pastors do or ministers do, but to supplement that in other areas where we've got some specialties. And let me see if I press that. I'm going to get better at pressing this button, I promise, so I won't be drawing attention to it. My name's Phill. The other gentleman and I that are a part of No Apologies at the moment, you can tell by my voice, obviously quite Australian. I'm a local guy, born in slim, dusty country. Does anybody know where that is? Campsie, that's right. I don't like country music though, so Slim's a nice guy, but there you go. So there's me, an Australian, Steve of great mixed heritage, who's down the front row with me, sort of German, Scottish, whatever he feels like identifying as, and I'll call him German for today, and Harvey, who's not here, who's South African. So often... Oh, I can't say English. Well, I will, but whenever we, let's say we go to a church, you can imagine it's a little bit humorous because an Australian, an Englishman, and a South African walk into a church and the minister says, "What, is this some kind of joke?" Oh, it's a tough crowd. That's okay. It's good to be here. It's lovely to know that you're all here. So, apologetics, if you can see that, is really just a logical defence for your faith. It's nothing fancy, nothing more than that. And what we hope to do in our work is strengthen and encourage Christians. There we go. This is going to be fun, isn't it? So our purpose, as you could read there, is to present biblical, historical, scientific and logically sound answers to questions that are raised against biblical Christianity. So it's a no judgment zone. I know many Christians have questions of their own, and we just want to know that it's okay for Christians to have questions about their faith, because I believe God and the Bible can provide us with really, really sound answers, no matter what they are. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. If I make these sort of on-hold noises, it's just waiting to get the PowerPoint to respond. So what we like to present are clear answers. It's a no judgment zone wherever we are, always very respectful and always unashamedly direct as well. So the purpose of what we do, should that have an apostrophe? Yeah, great. I like to make, grammar, getting that correct. I'm sorry for the teachers in the room that have to look at that sort of thing. So for you may have to answer niggly questions that you may have floating in your brain about your Christian faith and the rigor of it, or how you can attest it. You may have some questions about that. And also for your family and friends and colleagues, it may also be a way to give you answers for their niggly questions. Now, who's ever, and this is the show of hands thing, I'm assuming everybody has hands, who's ever, as a Christian, had someone ask them a question to challenge their faith? Ever? All of us. Okay. Okay. Who's ever had someone challenge their faith with a question that you didn't know the answer to? Okay. That doesn't always make us feel very comfortable, does it? But, as Christians, we don't always have to be Google. We don't have to have the answers at the tip of our tongue for everything. So I just want to help us by realising that while we are Christians and we do need to present a defence for our faith, we don't always have to be put on the spot. And today what I'm going to do is encourage us with 2 things. One, around the uniqueness of Christ, and 2, how do we answer questions from people in a particular area when they say something like, "Oh, Jesus, it's just like any other God, really." What do we say to that? I would say no. Highlighting everyone as well that No Apologies is having a mini seminar conference in March this year, March 28th. It'll be in Coffs, so if you want to put aside a couple of hours on a Saturday, more information will be coming out. But we'll be doing an equipping workshop in Coffs as well. It'll be fun, and there'll be lunch and things like that there. So today, look at this. I'm going to get so good at pressing this button. Oh, look, that got fancy, didn't it? Okay, there we go. It actually reminds me of another cartoon that I saw with all this pressing that I'm doing in the time. Can you imagine a picture of a minister standing at a pulpit and a police officer on the side with a motorbike here saying, "I'm sorry, minister, you're doing 45 minutes in a 20-minute zone." Well, hopefully I can get through this on time without having to overpress things. So Jesus among other gods. That, for many people in the world, that's quite a popular thought. Isn't Jesus just like all those other gods? To which I would say, absolutely not, because he's the only one that is a God in that way. So we looked at our scriptures this morning. I won't be reading them out because we've already read the scripture this morning. One thing I do want to highlight through coming back to scripture first of all is it points out quite a few characteristics of Jesus. 1, that he's unique. 2, he was before all things. So how can he be like any other gods, if they were gods or just these man-made ideas? How could Christ be like all these other ones if he was before them? Answer? He's not. He's not. Jesus is unique. And it behooves us to get to know him and say that with our friends as well. How do we help our friends know that Jesus is not just like taking... Do you feel like a bit of Buddha today? Do you feel like a bit of Muhammad today? Do you feel like a bit of Jesus today? No way. Jesus is not like the lolly shop where you get to pick and choose. So this criticism here is one that I'm going to deal with directly today. Some people claim that Jesus is just a myth, that Jesus' story is just an amalgam, a bringing together of pagan deities already existing and their stories. Has anyone come across that claim or criticism that people say, he was just a bit of this god and a bit of this god and a bit of this god and a bit of that god? Anyone heard that before? A few people have, a few nods, others haven't. It's becoming quite popular as people dig through Egyptian and Middle Eastern and Western European deities of that time. Some popular examples, and by mean popular, I don't mean that you would come across these at BCC or at Sawtell Cinema, but floating around the internet in the Chatterati, you will find some of these guys that... this particular movie here by Bill Maher called Religulous. He's a comedian, apparently, if you like that sort of thing. And he builds on this other movie called Zeitgeist, where basically what they're doing is looking at writing sources and saying, if we go back into the history of these so-called earlier gods, we'll find that everything Jesus said about himself was said by someone else only earlier. So what really happened was, not what the Bible said, but that these disciples pulled together all these things and created their own God and named him Jesus. Now if that's true, you and I are in a mess of trouble as Christians. But I tell you that it's not. So what are some of the popular claims? The first one is that you've got someone called Mithra from Persia. You've got someone called Horus from Egypt. And also Dionysius from Greece. Come on, Dionysius, show us your pretty face. Up we come. Oh, you wanted to see him, didn't you? Some of these you may have heard of. Mithra, maybe not. Horus, if you're into Egyptian mythology, give me nods if you're seeing some of these that you recognise. this is what we can say about these folks. Okay, so Mithra, and just tick a few on there. Mithra, there are some of the claims of Mithra. And 2 more, please. That's it. These are the people, when they talk about Mithra, that he was born of a virgin, born on December 25th, had 12 disciples, performed miracles, was dead for 3 days, resurrected, and instituted Sunday worship. Does that sound like anyone that you know? Okay. Next, please. So let's bring up a couple more here. And 2 more. Great. So here's Horus. Had anybody heard of Horus before? A bit more. Watched our Egyptian movies and things like that. Claims that he was born of a virgin, born on December 25th. Star was in the east, adored by 3 kings. Was a teacher at the age of 12. Was baptized and into ministry at 30. And also had 12 disciples. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Okay. Next one, please. So Dionysius claims that he was born of a virgin, born on December 25th, performed miracles, was called the King of Kings, was called the Alpha and Omega, and was resurrected. Sound like anybody else that you may have heard about? You can see why people come up with these. Now, I've put at the bottom of those slides, not that I expect you to remember, but there will be a test at the end, just some actual source material, some ancient source material to say where we're looking at these claims from. So can you go on to the next one, please? So the common criticism is that a bit of Mithra plus a little bit of Horus plus a little bit of Dionysius equals Christ, which is great if you're a secular thinker because it means you don't have to be accountable to Jesus. And it's lousy for Christians because it means that all we're doing is just making stuff up along the way. Wow, what a bankrupt kind of religion we would have if that was the case. Next one, please. So here, Bill Maher, and one more click. These guys, these are very popular in the university set at the moment and the Twitterati and places like that, places where people are out there sharing lots of social media ideas. But when you look into the work where they brought those claims from, all those things that seem so similar to Jesus, they quote a book, that quotes a book, that quotes a book, that quotes no ancient sources at all. So what they are doing is thinking that they have come up with this great killer punch for Christianity because this book says this book says this book. But actually, if they go back to the first book they're quoting on, somewhere in the 1800s, there's no reference to really ancient sources at all, which means, just on the surface level of documents, they're making it up. That should be pretty reassuring for any Christian to know that some of these main criticisms that, when you look into them just a little bit, are not based on any kind of historical data or fact, unlike the Bible, which has, we know, got like, if I think about when it was started, roughly, how long have we been writing the Bible for, Steve? About 2,000 years? 4,000 from Moses? I just doubled it. He'd be great at an auction house, wouldn't he? So 4,000 years of continuous biblical documentary history versus people who've gone back to the 1800s and made things up. So often when we have criticisms raised against our faith, it's worth just taking a breath and saying, let me check that out. I'll get back to you. And we find that a lot of complaints against Christianity are just a straw man, just a house of cards, and it's best not to be upset about them. Can we go to the next slide, please? So let's look at Mithra, and I'll be taking my glasses off and on for this. Can you just do the first click? So the first one, I maybe go, bring them all up. These, I made a mistake. Go back a little bit, just up to that first one. Thanks very much. So born of a virgin, Mithra. That's actually false. If you go back to the original source material for Mithra, he wasn't actually born of a virgin at all, but is born out of a rock, fully formed, and fully armoured for war. So we can give that the big X of, that's a false claim. Our next one, that he was born on December 25th. And, well, that's false because there's no date given for the birth of Mithra. And also, most Christians would be aware that December 25th there's no recorded birth date for Jesus, and December 25th was an arbitrary one that was put in place when public holidays and celebrations around Christmas and Easter were instituted earlier on. So that is not even a Christian claim, so not one that we should be concerned about. The next one, 12 disciples. Well, Mithra had one or two, depending upon the sect you read. So the common argument that Mithra had 12 disciples, again, is made up. That he performed miracles is the next one. So one more click, please. This is his miracle, not really like a miracle of Jesus. One more click, please. He didn't perform miracles. The only thing Mithra was ever famous for was killing a bull. Now, that could mean he's Spanish. I'm not sure. Lots of Spaniards kill lots of bulls. The next one was that he was dead for 3 days. Well, that's no, because Mithra never died in, mythology. So how does someone who never died have a resurrection? Anyone? Bit tricky there. So that seems to have just been fabricated as well. And one more about being... if you never died, you can't be resurrected. Sunday worship. Christians worshipped on Sunday from the start. If you remember, reading in Acts, that's nothing new. They'd go to the temple and synagogue on Saturday and then regather on Sunday to hear the apostles teach. The Mithraic cult, by the way, so the actual cult that became popular, really only became popular in the 2nd century. So all these complaints and things that Jesus was a part of Mithra, actually the popularisation of the Mithraic cult was that Jesus came first. So chicken and the egg one there. Let's look at the next one quickly while we can. Horus. This is a really interesting one. Born 25th of December. By which calendar? Some say it was August 24th to 28th, July 15th. Take your pick, so there's nothing in there. Was he born of a virgin? No, this is where pagan religion is fantastic. No, his father was apparently Osiris. His mother was Isis. And Osiris was killed and chopped up and dismembered. Hopefully your breakfast is not churning away too much at the moment. Isis, his mother, actually reformed bits of Osiris to help her become pregnant. I let you imagine what bits those might be. So she created copulation to create Horus. It's hardly born of a virgin, and it's, I'm not sure if there are any gynecologists in the room, but I don't think that works. What about one more? Next one, please. Was there a star in the east? Well, no, click, there's no source for that. That's all right, Steve, we'll leave that. Adored by 3 kings is the next one. Interesting, Scripture does not say that Jesus was worshipped by 3 kings. We hear 3. You can call this out. Where does the 3 come from, folks? The gifts. That's right. Gold, frankincense, myrrh. That's right. So people often say, we 3 kings of, you put it into a song or whatever, but it's really not that at all. But anyway, there's nothing to say that Jesus was worshipped by 3 kings anyway. The Magi were wise men, gave 3 gifts, and people confuse that with 3 wise men. Was he a teacher at 12? Well, no source says that about Horus at all. Jesus was not a teacher at 12, but he did ask a lot of questions, and he discussed the Scriptures, so no correlation there. Next one, he was baptised and into ministry at 30. Well, there's nothing like baptism in the story of Horus. The closest thing is like this deity of embalming. So even then. Next one, that he had 12 disciples. Well, that's a big no. He actually only had 4 followers of Horus and 16 blacksmiths. And yes, 16 minus 4 equals 12. But that's bad maths, whichever way you look at it. But it's not really apple and orange mathematics. He had 4, possibly 16, maybe 20, but not 12. So we can discount those as well. One more, please. Over we go. And Dionysius. It says he was born of a virgin. In which story? The answer is absolutely no, because there was apparently an affair between Zeus and a human princess. So if anyone's read Genesis 6 recently, he's technically what they might call a Nephilim. Or Zeus and his daughter Persephone. They had a baby. Which one of those stories? So there's a mix of stories. Next one, born on the 25th of December. There's no reference to that. The next one, that he performed miracles. Okay, now sure, so, deities you would think are supposed to do great things. That's what deities, gods do. Well, all this guy's remembered for is giving out wine and alcohol. So, I don't know if you'd call that a miracle or not. Maybe happy at Australian barbecues, but not a miracle. Some people say, he turned water into wine, so that's like Jesus. Well, there's no story of that. Internet attacks come at the expense of a lot of truth these days. You see things on the internet, it's a marketplace out there. That he was called the King of Kings. No, it's not that type of a god. More like a Zeus, who was sort of the king of the gods in that mythology. This god is the party god. So that's not an appropriate title in any way. That he was the Alpha and Omega. Nope. There's no reference to that at all. And the connection is really completely made up. And what about the claim that this guy also was resurrected? No, again, no. But here's where this might be based, but it's a little bit of a stretch. So follow me on this one. It's really far off, but without details. His resurrection story. The Titans, who are like big muscly gods, ripped his body to shreds. The goddess Hera was jealous and convinced the Titans to destroy him, so they did. His heart was the only thing left of his body, so they did a good job. And so his body was put inside a new mother so he could have a second birth. Okay, so that's not at all like a Jesus story. That's just an enormous mythological stretch. And the first time this resurrection story came about relating to Dionysius was some centuries after Christianity. So again, it's interesting to look at where these things come from. There's also around resurrection, there's also the idea of the story that was before is the seasonal birth and rebirth, spring and winter type of rebirthing and solstice and equinox kind of reincarnation process. But that at all has nothing to do with Jesus and the Christian faith. We're not into this cyclic approach. The resurrection of Christ is that unique event. So we can see with these three examples how every one of these common... and there are many more. Thank you. There are many more claims of different gods that are meant to have these bits that Jesus and his disciples came up with. But you can see just on the documents alone, these three cases all just completely fall over. And they're the best of these complaints. So I wanted to have a bit of reassurance that as you come up against complaints, whether someone who's a non-Christian brings this charge and says, Jesus is just a bit like these other gods, you can say, hey now, hold on, wait a minute. And you can actually discuss with people. That's not actually the case. But even if you have different complaints, the idea is that what we'd encourage is for you to be able to go back to your source material, back to the Bible, back to people who can help unpack what the challenge is against the faith and not feel like you have to be put on the spot to give answers right then and there to people to become uncomfortable, just to hold open discussion. And click. There we go. And of course, just highlighting at the end of the message now, just wrapping it up, Jesus is not like any of those other gods. He's not an amalgam or a bring together of these bits of pagan deities. From Scripture itself, it says Jesus was before all things and is the creator of all things. There's no way the creator of all things can be some made-up story, bits of this, bits of that, like some religious jigsaw that people want to put together. And if we look at our Scriptures here, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So we can see, looking at that short video there as well, that all these other bits and pieces of God's offer nothing for humanity, offer nothing for creation itself, whereas the story of Christ is one that is complete top and tail, that talks the whole story of humanity through from beginning right to the end, and the wonderful, wonderful victory that Jesus has over sin that shares with us. And so there is no more a need for separation between man and God, because Jesus is the one, because he's not just a story, he is the one who brings us that bridge to God through the forgiveness of sins. If he was just a story, that wouldn't be available to us. But because he is real and he is more than just a story, those things are available to us. And so from the No Apologies chaps, I just want to encourage everyone in your faith this morning, no matter what comes your way, no matter what questions or challenges that people bring your way against your faith, we just hope you're able to be encouraged, stand your ground, and know that you really can trust in and rely in the Bible. And, of course, if you want to keep your eyes open for the March 28th No Apologies mini-seminar, you'd be most welcome to be there. More information on that is coming. But for now, I say thanks very much. Let's wrap up in a word of prayer, and then I'll hand back over.